Welcome to Bets on the Future, where we highlight the various career paths in the electrifying metals world. From the vehicle you ride in to the bridge holding it up, metals are everywhere. Why not in your career too? I'm Jennifer Betts, a metals industry veteran with almost 20 years experience, here to highlight these incredible career paths as told by the women who are living them. This week, our guest will steal a few moments of your time. Please give a warm welcome to Becca Moczygemba, reporter for Steel Market Update. Becca brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the table. She is a true woman of steel, working in the steel industry for many years before joining CRU's team of knowledgeable steel reporters at Steel Market Update. Get ready for an enriching conversation about the steel industry and how to jump into an industry ready for the next wave of passionate individuals. So wonderful to have you here, Becca. Becca Moczygemba is a reporter for Steel Market Update, which is a community for the steel space, and she is incredibly knowledgeable, and it's going to be a fantastic time to be able to learn a little bit about yourself, how you got into this, and just learn a little bit more about what you're working on at Steel Market Update.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
That's so wonderful. So when we were talking before we hit the record button, you mentioned that you have not been at Steel Market Update super long at this point. How did you find SMU?
So I was actually a reader at my previous jobs. I worked for Mitsui. It's a Japanese trading house for 4 years. And then I was at Klockner for a year. And I was on LinkedIn one day and I saw Michael had posted, oh, looking for a reporter. And I did my undergrad in communications. And I was like, oh, what's this about? So I messaged him and he was like, well, send me a writing sample. And I sent him a writing sample and the rest is fate. Here I am.
That's fantastic. It's pretty incredible, the range of careers that exist in this space. For those that are not familiar with the metal space, could you translate essentially what your previous employers did or where they fell in the supply chain for the metals industry?
Yeah, sure. So I fell into the industry by mistake. Like I feel many people have. Um, so at Mitsui, they were a trader, so we would source steel coils, all flat roll, and sell it to customers. Klockner's a service center where they'll source material, process it, and then sell it to end users. So I have been at the beginning of the supply chain, kind of beginning, middle, and middle of supply chain.
That's fantastic. The opportunities and things that you have seen has probably been pretty incredible. Do you find anything different or more interesting now that you're on the reporting side of things versus on the physical trading side?
It's a different perspective. I feel like I definitely bring a unique perspective to our newsletters or when I'm talking to people in the market. I'm not a journalist by trade. I happen to have communications experience and can write. And I know that's not very common in our industry. So
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like I'm a unicorn of sorts. I'm just very fortunate to have had the experience that I've had. My career has been nonlinear. You know, somehow I started in communications and wound up in the steel industry, but it's come full circle. So I feel like I'm right where I should be. And it's just been a fun ride so far.
It's quite interesting to hear how people fall into this. There are several, folks that are in the industry that have the family or the friends connections. And then there's others like myself, career fair in college, had no idea this world existed, thought I'd take this job for 6 months and then reassess and go into something, that appeared to be, a little bit more appealing, more tech-based, something along those lines. And this industry has truly surprised me. It's been way more interesting than what I expected it to be.
Yeah, I actually feel like it's kind of a secret, like a special little secret that the people in the industry know about and nobody outside of it does. Um, but I thought when I was at Klockner, I thought I would end up as an analyst or some type of inventory management I like problem solving. So that was kind of where I saw myself going. I never in a million years thought I would be writing about the industry. Um, so I did my MBA while I was at Mitsui, and I was definitely trying to go more down the business route. I'm very passionate about business. And, I read a lot about strategy and I just find it interesting. Um, and then my career just took a complete turn, but it's a really cool turn.
I think it's fantastic. I used to work for Argus Media, which, for those not in the metals industry, is a price reporting agency. It's essentially a combination of reporters, journalists writing on news stories as well as, doing price assessments. And I always thought it was very interesting. They did try to pull in individuals from the industry. So there were several reporters there that had industry experience. Others not so much, where they got the journalist background and brought them in. And it's almost all of them had the same story where they were just surprised to find this industry and then love it as much as they have, right? It's and I'm sure you've seen it in the past year of you covering the industry. I mean, there's news stories almost every day that are fascinating out there.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's all we do all day is we provide news and updates for the community. I actually, in between working for Mitsui and Klockner, I worked in risk management for as a credit analyst for about 4 months. And I woke up one day and I was like, oh my gosh, I miss the steel industry. I miss, knowing everything. And I miss the people that I've met in the industry because it's so relationship based. And I've met some of the kindest people in this industry. Most everybody I know is just super genuine. They'll help you out, they'll answer questions. And like I said, it's just a special secret.
It really is. I have a finance degree in undergrad, and I thought I was going in investment banking, right? And the more and more I learn about what my day-to-day life would actually look like, the more and more I realized that was not going to be for me. And the career fair, finding a company that essentially said, here's a company car, here's an expense account. Oh yeah, and by the way, it's in the scrap metal world, or as we call it now, recycled materials. And my family did not understand what I was about to go into. And almost 20 years later, I'm still here, kind of exploring the all the different avenues that exist in this industry, but it kind of gets into your blood. I know that's a very cheesy thing that we say in this industry, but it kind of does.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is exactly what happened to me. And I had somebody tell me pretty early on that you either love the steel industry or you don't, and you'll know within 6 months.
Yep.
And the person said, within 6 months, it'll be in your blood, and that's what you'll do for the rest of your life. And I was like, no, this is just a job until I figure out what I'm going to do. And 6 years later, here I am still.
And you're still here. When you tell your friends and family what you do they understand? Do they have a general idea of what you're a part of?
Not really. They question when I first started. They were like, what is it that you actually do? And I'm like, well, we have these big steel coils that look like a toilet paper roll, and it's turned into all kinds of stuff. And I live in Houston, so we have lots of metal buildings here in Texas, lots of barns. And, I use that as an example, and then they kind of understand. But when I turned to reporting, they had a better understanding.
Hmm.
We're reporting on the market, so they can kind of equate it to that market, regular market reporting.
Yes. What most people probably are not aware of is steel is a commodity, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So it's essentially a stock, if you will, and market news is what changes the pricing of it, right?
Yeah.
Like if
Mm-hmm.
there's a shortage because the steel mill goes down for unexpected maintenance for 3 4 weeks, if lead times start, shrinking, it's going to affect the pricing of that commodity. And it goes into almost everything that we use to hold up our infrastructure in pretty much every society around the world.
Yeah, and that's what one thing when I was an account manager at Klockner, I was reading Steel Market Update regularly. We have newsletters that come out 3 days a week, but we're constantly updating the website. It's not just like, here's the news for the day and then tomorrow you'll get different news. No, it is around the clock, latest steel news. We're a resource.
Mhm.
And I was able to communicate to my customers what was going on. They would ask me, hey, what's blah, blah, blah. And I was able to tell them because I'd read the news that morning.
Mhm.
So I think being able to have steel specific news that you don't have to go to a bunch of different websites to look for streamlines things.
Mhm.
When you're an account manager, when you're in sales, whether you're a VP, executive, whatever, it's all right there. And
Absolutely.
we live in an era of convenience, and that's convenient.
Absolutely. It's something that I didn't know existed again when I was in college. I had no idea there was a world where there were essentially business publications dedicated to this industry. And it really is a very necessary aspect if you're in this industry. SMU is fantastic from a resource standpoint. They have experienced individuals like yourself. You alluded to Michael Cowden earlier on, who's been in the industry many years as well, very knowledgeable. But what I think is very unique about what SMU does is that it's also a community where they put on events and conferences. And so it's a networking opportunity as well.
Yeah, and I think that people, they'll ask like, oh, Steel Market Update, you guys do a newsletter. I was actually at AWMI meeting a couple weeks ago, and we were sitting around. It was a crawfish boil, very casual, and we were talking about it. And somebody had asked, "Oh, so you guys just have the newsletter, or what do you have?" And I said, "We're not just a newsletter. We're a community." And they're kind of like didn't understand. And I said, we have the newsletter, yes. We have the website, yes. But we have our conferences. We have Steel 101. We are a full on resource for the steel industry. We have pricing, we have lead times. We want you to call us and email us and say, hey, what's going on? I just had a 4 day long email chain with one of my industry friends, and we were talking about everything under the sun. We were talking about mills, we were talking about lead times, we were talking about pricing, we were talking about just everything. And it was so awesome to be able to have that back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
We love that, not just as reporters, like, yes, it's great to get that intel on the market,
Mm-hmm.
but this is what we're passionate about. We wouldn't be doing this job if we weren't. And I love it when people call me or they text me and they're like, what's going on with this? I saw the article. Can you give me more? Or it's just, it's so fun.
It really is. And for those who are in the industry that are listening to this or watching this online, however you stream it in the future, having relationships with individuals like yourself are really important. When I was in the marketplace and I was trading metals, I had really good relationships, and I still do. I still keep in contact with the reporters in the industry because that's exactly what I would do. Is I would call up someone and say, "Hey, I heard this rumor. Can you confirm, deny? Have you been hearing this?" It's that exchange of information that is fantastic. Reporters know everyone. They know the whole marketplace. They know all the players. So if you're looking for an unbiased individual in this industry, reporters are your go-to people, because it's not like when I call up a steel mill and say, "Hey, I hear like your furnace is down." That doesn't really benefit them, to really share as much information as they probably could, right? Like they
Right.
need to keep that to the chest a little bit more. But on the reporter side, you don't have skin in the game. Like you're just straight up reporting on what is happening in the industry. There's no bias, and you can get really great unfiltered information through folks like yourself.
Yeah. And I also think it's important to know that when you're talking to a reporter, or we're asking for pricing or something, we're never putting anybody's name out there, or if there is an issue with a mill, we're just reporting the information that they're giving us. We're never writing super negative things. We're not, that's not what we want.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be a resource for the community. We're part of the community. No, I'm not sending processing orders or taking POs anymore, but we're serving the industry. And like you said, it's super important to know about pricing, know what scrap is doing, know what the market is doing. And the only way to know what it's doing is to talk to people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I've blurred it out, but I'm in Chicago in a hotel room this week because I was at a networking event, because it is very important. Those in the industry would know the Boy Scouts dinner, the big metals dinner that's held in Chicago annually. And I believe the final count was around 1,000 people last night. 1,000 people. And this is really more on the finished product side of things. So you've got the raw materials that go into the steel mills and the other melt shops, throughout the industry. And then the finished product, like the coils that you talked about, onto the service centers, distributors, OEMs, all the way down. Mainly basically steel mills on is what this dinner was about. And there were 1,000 people there. And it's such a small community by volume of individuals, yet the impact that it has on our society is great. Huge, right? A lot of the topics that come up in these networking opportunities revolve around sustainability. That's a hot topic right now, around recycled materials, around essentially carbon footprints. And it's a very old school industry in the sense that you need to meet in person. You need to establish those relationships to build up that trust, to get the information and those business opportunities. And it's very similar to what you're working on.
Yeah, I always tell people who are new to the industry, this is a relationship-based industry. Go to lunches, go to dinners,
Yep.
Call people, text.
Yep.
Send a carrier pigeon, whatever you have to do. But I think that's part of what makes it so special, is that you still get that human interaction.
Yes.
Where we're so digital and we're always on our phones all day, and we're Teams and email and WhatsApp and everything under the sun. But to be able to, call up one of my friends in the industry and be like, you want to go to lunch? Talk about the kids, talk about, whatever's going on. And like, oh, by the way, did you hear what scrap is doing? And to have that organically happen from networking events, Steel Summit was my first time last year to go, and I just had the best time. I was like, I'm at a work function and I'm smiling. This is strange, but all the people that I've met, I've kept in touch with, or texting each other, sending, TikTok videos or whatever.
Yes. I love it.
You can be casual. There's no stuffy formality.
No.
You can go have a beer.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This industry is more welcoming than what I think most people from the outside would stereotype this industry. And I mean, that's part of the reason why we're doing this, is because I've met some really incredible women over the course of my career, and I'd like to showcase them more, right? And show that the stereotypes that exist out there are not always accurate for this industry. In terms of what you've seen over the years, is there anything that you would recommend to someone who is interested in getting into this industry? Any words of advice or suggestions for them?
Network, call people that you know, get on LinkedIn, send messages, don't be shy. Um, I felt like I didn't know Michael when I sent him a message on LinkedIn about the job. I was just like, I work for Klockner and you posted about a job. So um, take a risk on yourself, bet on yourself because you'll surprise yourself.
Absolutely. I think the LinkedIn suggestion is really key. If you aren't able to find those in-person networking opportunities, LinkedIn is a really great resource. Find companies on there that you're interested in working for, look them up online, not just on LinkedIn, but on their social media sites too, because then you can get a better perspective of what they're up to. And I recently learned about a new feature on LinkedIn where you can go to a company's page and you can scroll down to the bottom and you can hit something along the lines of uh not apply, but just send them a little note that says, in the future, if you do have an opportunity that arises, I am interested. And so
Oh, that's cool.
there it's a pretty cool new tool. I think it came out the past few weeks where if you don't want to put open to work on your profile badge, right? But if you see a company down the road and you're thinking maybe in a few years, that's something that I would look forward to, it's just another great networking opportunity. Just to put your
Yeah.
name in there, just so that they have you in their database, that if there is an opportunity. So if you do want to get into the metals industry, whether it's from the raw material side, steel mills, service centers, communities like yourself, there are ways to get involved, and it really revolves around relationships, finding people online, just starting the conversation.
Yeah. And if you want to move around within the industry, like if you're already in it and you're, 1 to 2 years at a company and you're like, oh, I want to see what else is out there, joining AWMI is fantastic. I have met so many people through just my chapter, and I I wish I wouldn't have waited so long to join.
Yes. For those who are unfamiliar, AWMI is the Association of Women in the Metals Industries. And there are many associations within the metals industry. And AWMI, in my opinion, is probably the best association to belong to because it's the only vertically integrated. You will meet people across the full supply chain, and it really opens up your eyes to what's available out there, as well as just from a connecting standpoint. You meet individuals from your chapter, from your region that you may not have necessarily ever done business with in the
Yeah.
in the past or in the future. And so it gives you an opportunity to develop new business leads, mentors, overall just networking and having additional dialogue and discussions of, hey, I heard this. Did you hear this in the marketplace? And it's a truly fantastic organization.
Yeah. And it is open to men. There are male members.
Yes.
So you are absolutely welcome to join, even though it says women in the metals industry. We do have lots of male members.
Yes, absolutely. It's an organization that is supporting women in the industry, and that's from male and female members. There are individuals that I've met in the industry that essentially went on a steel mill tour, saw molten steel for the first time in college, and then got hooked on it, right? So if we don't keep doing that, we're going to eliminate essentially half the workforce from our
Yeah.
industry. And that's a really archaic stereotype that perhaps some think that women are not interested in this industry, and it's absolutely not true. There
Yeah.
are very fascinating areas of this industry, and women and men gravitate towards them because it's interesting. It keeps you engaged in your line of work.
Yeah. And it's constantly evolving. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, look at where we are now with sustainability and green steel, and there's just all kinds of fun stuff coming out. And, mentioning getting people interested in the industry. I don't know if you're familiar with the next gen metals community.
I only relatively recently heard about it, but I need to look more into it. I haven't done anything with it.
Yeah. So it's an under 40 group
Okay.
that we've kind of started here at Steel Market Update. It's
Okay.
free to join. And we're basically just building a community of the next generation of people in the steel industry. You go to a conference and there's a massive generational gap if
Mhm.
you look around the room. So our goal is to really push for the executives at companies to look around their office, look at the demographics, and look at the up and comers, the people who are going to be in the executive positions in 20, 30 years. This is an opportunity for executives now, management now, to mentor the people who are going to be in their positions in the future. You go to conferences and you don't see a lot of younger people, and that's an issue. That's a big issue. I know I've heard of companies, it's for management and executives only to attend, but they're missing out on the opportunity to mentor someone, to take them and say, you know, I know you're in sales, or I know you're an account manager, but I see your potential and I want to take you to this conference so I can show you how to network, so I can introduce you to people, so you can expand your knowledge.
Mhm.
And I think there's a huge opportunity right now, and I would love to see more people take advantage of it.
That's a really wonderful opportunity for folks to recognize too. From a career perspective, the metals industry offers up a fantastic job security situation for the next generation, right? There are a variety of reasons why there is a bit of a gap in the metals industry in terms of hiring. But think about the experienced individuals that are going to be retiring soon. There is a huge wealth of knowledge that if you get into this industry in the next 5 to 10 years, you can hopefully get even just like a little percentage of that knowledge transferred. But then think about it from your personal perspective, right? You are now in a situation in an industry where I would dare to say the majority are going to start aging out and they're going to start retiring in probably the next 5 to 10 years, I'd say.
Yeah.
So, from
Yeah.
a career opportunity, they leave their higher up positions, that creates a ripple effect. So, you get into an industry, and now all of a sudden, you're going to have this opportunity to really climb the ladder, get new opportunities, new responsibilities, learn new things in probably not a traditional way. Whereas if you went into another industry that regularly recruits over the past, few decades, there may not be as many opportunities to quickly advance within that industry. And the metals
Yeah.
world offers that today.
Yeah. I also think that along the lines of, teaching younger staff or youth, whatever you want to call it, the next generation,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think it's a really good opportunity for people in executive positions to kind of solidify their legacy in the industry. I think of mentors that I've had of my own, and think of knowledge that I have that I've been able to share with my mentee.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm like, I only know this because of this person who's older than me, who's experienced, who's been in the industry for a long time. And I get to pass on that legacy. If you're not sharing the knowledge, if you're not, sharing your experience, then you're missing out.
100%. Absolutely. Before we go on this podcast, is there any piece of advice, any last minute comments that you want to share, maybe where people can find you, reach out to you, or even just advice on the metals industry in general?
Yeah, I think just putting yourself out there, building relationships, network.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be scared to do anything. Don't be scared to try something new. If I was an account manager and now I'm a reporter, so anything is possible.
I love it.
Um, if you guys want to reach me, you can reach me for email, Becca at steelmarketupdate.com. And like I said, we love to hear from you guys. Call us, email us, Pony Express, whatever. whatever means of communication you'd like to use. We really, truly, truly enjoy hearing from the people who come to Steel 101, the people who read our newsletter, the people who look at our website. We're really trying to embrace the steel industry as a community and not just another commodity.
I think it's fantastic. This industry is not going away. It's local, it's global. You're going to have a lifelong career in this. And as you've showcased, it's not a one career track industry. There are plenty
Yeah.
of opportunities to take the experience that you've had at Klockner and translate that into your new venture with SMU on the journalism side. It really does have a wide variety of opportunities in it, and it's really wonderful to see you succeeding, sharing that knowledge, participating with
Thank
Next
you.
Generation, AWMI. You're a really great example of who's in this industry and the really welcoming perspectives that are out there to newcomers.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I feel like I'm still young, so never know where my career is headed.
Exactly. And again, plenty of opportunities to grow in this industry. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. Becca Moczygemba, thank you so much. Reporter, Steel Market Update. You can find her on LinkedIn, Steel Market Update online. Really wonderful to have you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.